your journey, your climb. It's personal. No one can walk it for you. And if you want real growth, real transformation, you're going to have to understand something crucial. Solitude is not your enemy, it is your ally. The world wants to keep you distracted. Social media wants to pull your attention. People want to tell you how far you should go, what you should do, and how fast you should move. But growth doesn't happen in the noise. It happens when you're willing to be alone with your thoughts, alone with your goals, alone with your hunger. Solitude is where you discover your raw potential. It's where you stop making excuses, stop comparing yourself to everyone else, and start listening to the voice inside. The one that's screaming for more, pushing you to levels you've never imagined. In solitude, you confront yourself. You face your weaknesses, you wrestle with your fears. And when you survive that confrontation, you come out stronger. Understand this. Your journey demands sacrifices. Some of those sacrifices are loud and visible, but many are quiet. The quiet sacrifice is the willingness to be alone, to work while no one is watching, to grind when no one believes, to rise before the world wakes and fight battles that no one else will ever see. That's how legends are made, not by staying in the comfort of the crowd, but by walking alone when it matters most. So embrace solitude. Let it sharpen you. Let it sharpen you. Let it teach you patience. Let it mold you into someone capable of handling success, the pressure, and the responsibility that's waiting for you at the top. Because those who fear solitude are often the same ones who fail to reach their full potential. Your journey is yours alone, and only in solitude will you discover what you're truly made of. Solitude is one of the most misunderstood things in life. People hear the word and they think loneliness. They think isolation. They think being left out or left behind. No, what solitude is. Solitude is not a punishment. Solitude is not a sentence. Solitude is a gift, and it is the arena where your true self is revealed. I'm telling you today, if you are serious about growth, if you are serious about becoming the best version of yourself, if you are serious about conquering the life you dream about, you have to learn how to be alone with yourself, and you have to embrace it. Because when you are alone, when the noise disappears, when the distractions fade, when there's no one to impress, no one to please, no one to blame, that is when you finally see who you really are. See, here's the thing. Most people live their lives in front of other people. They perform. They smile when they're hurting. They laugh when they're broken. They show strength when they're weak. They show confidence when inside they're scared. And you know why? Because the world teaches you to wear masks. It teaches you that you need to look a certain way, act a certain way, speak a certain way, or else people won't like you. People won't respect you, and people won't follow you. And there's nothing wrong with being liked. There's nothing wrong with being respected. But when you are always performing for others, when you are always trying to meet other people's expectations, when you never allow yourself the space to be real, you never meet yourself. You never meet the person you're supposed to become. And that is why solitude is so critical. When you are alone, you are forced to confront yourself. There's no hiding. There's no distraction. There's no filter. The person staring back at you in the mirror is the only one that matters. Because the person staring back is the one who has to live with you for the rest of your life. The person staring back is the one who has to endure your decision, your mistakes, your failure, your victory, triumphs, and your regrets. That person has to carry you through the storm. That person has to endure the battles that no one else can fight for you. That person is you. And if you don't learn to know that person, if you don't learn to embrace that person, if you don't learn to love that person, then the journey will always be harder than it needs to be. I want you to think about your life for a second. I want you to reflect. How often do you actually spend time with yourself? Not scrolling on social media, not texting your friend, not watching TV, not listening to music, not going out to a party, not doing something to fill the time or mask the silence. I mean, really, truly, honestly. How often do you sit with yourself? How often do you allow yourself to just be with your thoughts, to just confront your reality, to just examine your life and your decisions without interruption? Most people don't do this, and that's why most people never grow. Most people never level up. Most people never realize what they're capable of. Solitude is uncomfortable, and discomfort is necessary if you want transformation. It's uncomfortable because when you are alone, the excuses stop, the distractions stop, The people who make you feel safe, the people who make you feel validated, the people who make you feel accepted, they disappear. You're left with yourself. And when you are left with yourself, you can no longer hide. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer blame. You have to face the truth about who you are. And let me tell you something. The truth is rarely easy to face. The truth will challenge you. The truth will push you. The truth will test you. And that's the point. Solitude is not meant to be easy. Solitude is meant to be transformative. Solitude is meant to take you to the edge of yourself and show you who you are when no one is watching, when no one cares, when there's no applause, when there's no validation. That is when you discover your raw potential. That is when you discover your strength. That is when you discover the courage that's been inside of you all along. But you were too busy looking outward, too busy comparing yourself to others, too busy following the crowd, too busy trying to be something you're not. The only way to find out what you're really capable of is to spend time alone with yourself. I'm telling you, if you never learn to be alone, if you never learn to embrace solitude, if you never learn to confront your own thoughts, you will always live someone else's life. You will always be a product of your environment. You will always be a reflection of what other people want for you. And that is not the life you deserve. Let me break it down even further. Solitude allows you to confront your weaknesses. When you are alone, there's no one to impress. There's no one to hide from. There's no one to distract you from the areas in your life that are holding you back. The bad habits, the toxic relationships, the lies you tell yourself, the fear that paralyzes you, the procrastination that keeps you stagnant. All of it comes to the surface when you are alone. And when you see it, when you acknowledge it, when you face it, you can finally start to change it. You can finally start to grow. But most people run from this. Most people fill their lives with noise, with people, with distractions, because they are afraid of themselves. They are afraid to see the truth. They are afraid to confront their failures. They are afraid to take responsibility. And I'm here to tell you today, if you want greatness, if you want success, if you want to live a life that matters, you have to stop running from yourself. You have to stop hiding from your own reflection. You have to sit in solitude long enough to face your own reality, to wrestle with it and to emerge stronger on the other side. Solitude also reveals your values. When you are alone, away from the influence of others, you are forced to ask yourself some tough questions. What do I really want? Who do I want to become? What is truly important to me? Not what your parents want. Not what your friends want. Not what your boss wants. Not what society wants. What do you want? What kind of life do you want? What kind of person do you want to be remembered as? Solitude forces you to dig deep, to uncover your true desires, your true motivations, your true purpose. And this is powerful because when you know what you truly want, when you understand your values, when you align your actions with your deepest desires, nothing can stop you. When you are clear on who you are and what you stand for, the world has no power to distract you, to sway you, to shake you. That clarity comes from solitude. And let me tell you something else. Solitude teaches you patience. I know we live in a world where everyone wants instant results. Everyone wants to be famous overnight. Everyone wants to be successful without putting in the work. But growth takes time. Transformation doesn't happen in a day, a week, or a month. Growth is a process. And you can't fully appreciate the process until you're comfortable being alone. Solitude allows you to build resilience. Solitude allows you to endure. Solitude allows you to fight the battles that no one else will see. It teaches you that the climb is worth it, that the grind is necessary, that the struggle is essential. And most importantly, it teaches you that you are enough. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You just need yourself, your dedication, your work ethic, and your willingness to keep going when it's hard, when it's lonely, when it's uncomfortable. I want you to understand something critical. Solitude is where you become honest with yourself, and honesty is a game changer. When you are honest with yourself, you stop making excuses. You stop blaming others. You stop pretending. You stop hiding behind distraction. You stop complaining. You start taking action. You start owning your life. You start making decisions that matter. You start building the discipline and the character that separates the successful from the mediocre. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't owe you anything. No one is going to hand you your dreams. No one is going to fight for your goals. You have to do it yourself. And you can't do that if you don't know yourself. You can't do that if you are afraid to be alone. You can't do that if you are unwilling to sit with your own thoughts, to confront your own fears, to wrestle with your own weaknesses. Now let's talk about clarity. Solitude gives you clarity like nothing else. When you are surrounded by people all the time, when you are distracted by noise, when you are consumed by the chaos of life, your vision gets blurred. You can't see the next step. You see the path forward. You can't see what is really holding you back. But when you are alone, when you step away from all the noise, when you allow yourself the space to breathe, to think, to reflect, you start to see things clearly. You start to understand what's working in your life, what's not working, and what you need to change. You start to identify the habits that are helping you and the habits that are hurting you. You start to understand who is lifting you up and who is holding you back. Who is holding you back? That clarity is essential because without it, you're wandering blind. Without it, you're running in circles. Without it, you'll never reach the heights you're capable of. Let me be real with you. Growth is not easy. Transformation is not comfortable. And the journey to becoming the best version of yourself is not crowded. It's lonely. It's challenging. It's demanding. And if you are unwilling to embrace solitude, if you are unwilling to confront yourself, if you are unwilling to wrestle with your own fears and doubts, then you will never experience the fullness of your potential. You will always live a life defined by other people's expectations. You will always be limited by your own fear. You will always be stuck in mediocrity. But if you embrace solitude, if you welcome the silence, if you step into the arena of your own life without excuses, without distractions, without fear, that's when transformation happens. That's when your true self is revealed. And here's the beautiful thing about it. Once you know yourself, once you face yourself, once you embrace your solitude, you become unstoppable. You become unshakable. You become resilient. You become disciplined. You become focused. You become powerful because you are no longer living for anyone else. You are no longer performing for anyone else. You are no longer relying on anyone else. You are your own validation. You are your own validation. You are your own reason to rise every morning and fight for your dreams. And that, my friend, is freedom. That, my friend, is growth. That, my friend, is transformation. That, my friend, is the power of solitude. So today, I want you to make a decision. Decide that you will no longer fear being alone. Decide that you will no longer run from your own reflection. Decide that you will spend time with yourself, that you will wrestle with your fears, that you will confront your weaknesses, that you will examine your life, your goals, your purpose, your value will embrace solitude, because it is not your enemy, it's your ally. It is the forge where your character is tested. It is the laboratory where your potential is discovered. It is the arena where your true self is revealed. And I promise you this, when you embrace solitude, when you commit to it, when you sit with yourself long enough to face the truth, you will emerge stronger. You will emerge wiser. You will emerge more focused. You will emerge more disciplined. You will emerge more capable. You will emerge with the clarity, the confidence, the courage, and the power to take control of your life, to pursue your dreams relentlessly, and to become the person you were always meant to be. And the world will finally see what you are made of, but it all starts with you. It all starts with your willingness to be alone, to be honest, to confront yourself, and to embrace the solitude that reveals your true self. The journey is yours. The climb is yours. The struggle is yours. The victory is yours. The victory is yours. And the only way to truly know who you are, to truly realize your potential, to truly grow into the person you are meant to be, is to embrace the power of solitude. So go ahead. Step away from the noise. Step away from the distractions. Step away from the crowd. Step into your own life. Step into your own mind. Step into your own purpose. And let the solitude show you who you really are. Because when the world fades in, it's just you. That's when the magic happens. That's when you become unstoppable. That's when you discover the strength, the courage, the resilience, and the brilliance that has been inside you all along. That's when your journey truly begins. That's when you are no longer defined by others, but by yourself. That's when you finally meet the true you, the you who is capable, the you who is powerful, the you who is unstoppable, the you who will rise no matter what, the you who will conquer, the you who will win, the you who will live a life that matters. Embrace solitude. Welcome to silence. Sit with yourself. Face yourself. Wrestle with yourself because your journey demands it. Your growth demands it. Your future demands it. And when you finally embrace it, you will never be the same again. You will finally know who you are, and you will finally realize where you lie, and you will finally realize what you are capable of. Distraction. Distraction is everywhere. It's in your phone. It's in your social media feed. It's in the endless notification, the emails, the texts, the group chats. It's in the noise of the world, the opinions, the advice, the commentary that everyone thinks you need. Distraction is like a thief in the night, sneaking into your life, stealing your focus, stealing your energy, stealing your time, and most importantly, stealing your potential. If you want to grow, if you want to evolve, if you want to rise above mediocrity and reach the next level in your life, you have to understand this simple truth. Distraction is the enemy of growth. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. No hacks, no shortcuts, no excuses. Distraction will keep you from becoming the person you were meant to be. And until you recognize it, until you confront it, until you take radical ownership over your focus, you will continue to waste your life spinning your wheels, going in circles and never reaching the heights you are capable of. I want to be real with you. Growth requires focus. Growth requires dedication. Growth requires the ability to say no to things that don't matter so you can say yes to the things that do. But the world wants to keep you busy with things, but the world wants to keep you busy with things that don't matter. The world wants to entertain you while your dreams go unattended. The world wants to distract you while other people pass you by. And most people fall for it. Most people live their lives reacting instead of acting. They wake up, scroll on social media, check messages, reply to comments, watch videos, scroll some more, post a story, reply to another story, watch the news, complain about life. And before they know it, the day is gone, and they wonder why nothing has changed. They wonder why they are stuck. They wonder why their dreams are still far away. And the reason is simple. Distraction. Distraction keeps you occupied, but it never moves you forward. Distraction keeps you busy, but it never makes you better. Distraction keeps you entertained, but it never makes you successful. You have to recognize the enemy. You have to name it. You have to confront it. Because if you don't, it will control you. If you don't, it will dictate your life. If you don't, it will shape your habits, your decision, your actions, and ultimately your results. Distraction is sneaky. It comes disguised as fun. It comes disguised as connection. It comes disguised as necessity. You tell yourself, I just need a break. I just need a break. I just need a little rest. I just need a few minutes to catch up. And those a few minutes turn into hours. Those hours turn into days. Those days turn into years. And before you know it, your life has passed you by. Your potential is gone untapped. Your dreams remain unfulfilled. Your greatness remains dormant. And all because distraction won. I want you to think about the people you admire. The people who have achieved massive success. The people who have risen above their circumstances. The people who have created something meaningful, something lasting, something extraordinary. Do you think they spent their days scrolling on social media, arguing in comment sections, comparing themselves to everyone else, reacting to notifications, filling their minds with endless noise? Absolutely not. They understand the power of focus. They understand that every moment wasted on something that doesn't move them closer to their goals is a moment stolen from their potential. They understand that the life they want requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires the courage to say no to things that don't matter so they can say yes to the things that do. Distraction doesn't just waste your time. It steals your energy. It drains your mental bandwidth. It clouds your mind. It scatters your focus. And when your focus is scattered, your results are scattered. When your energy is low, your performance suffers. When your mind is cluttered, your decision-making falters. And when your decision-making falters, you take actions that don't matter. You waste opportunities, you sabotage yourself, and you move further away from the life you want. The harsh truth is this: you are only as productive as your focus. You are only as successful as your ability to eliminate distraction. You are only as powerful as your commitment to prioritize what matters most. Let me break it down even further. Distraction often comes in the form of other people. People who don't understand your goals, people who don't understand your vision, people who don't support your dreams, people who only want to complain, gossip, or hold you back. And if you're not careful, you let them into your life. You give them your time. You give them your time. You give them your energy. You give them your focus. And before long, you realize that you've been pulled off course. You've been influenced by opinions that don't matter. You've been weighed down by negativity that doesn't serve you. Growth requires boundaries. Growth requires saying no to the noise of other people. Growth requires the courage to protect your time, your energy, and your mind. Distraction also comes from within. Your own mind can be your worst enemy. Your own thoughts can sabotage you. Your own fears, doubts, insecurities, and limiting beliefs can pull you away from the path of growth. You think, I'm tired. I'll rest tomorrow. I'll start later. I'll do it next week. And the next week never comes. I'm not ready. I don't have enough. I can't do this. And before you know it, you've talked yourself out of your dreams. Internal distraction, the chatter in your head, the excuses, the self-doubt is just as dangerous, if not more, than external distraction. And if you want to grow, you must train your mind to eliminate that distraction. You must develop mental discipline. You must create habits that focus on action, not procrastination. You must learn to be ruthless with your time and your attention. Now, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to take a hard look at your life. What are the things that are keeping you from growth? What are the distractions that are holding you back? What are the habits, the people, the media, the noise, the entertainment, the opinions, the excuses that are stealing your focus, stealing your energy, stealing your time, and stealing your potential? Because until you identify them, until you confront them, until you take radical ownership of them, you will remain stuck. Growth will remain just out of reach. Success will remain just beyond your grasp. And the life you dream of will remain a dream. Let's talk about technology for a moment. I know I'm not telling you anything new. I know you've heard it before, but let me be blunt. Social media is a growth killer. It's a distraction factory. It's a place where time goes to die. It's a place where comparison kills confidence, where negativity kills motivation, where endless scrolling kills ambition. I'm not saying don't use social media. I'm not saying don't stay connected. But I am saying be intentional, be disciplined, be selective, limit your time, protect your focus. Because every hour you spend mindlessly scrolling is an hour you could have spent building your skills, working on your craft, creating value, pursuing your goals, or improving yourself. And those are the hours that add up to the life you want. Those are the hours that compound into success. Those are the hours that make the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Distraction also comes in the form of comfort. Comfort is a sneaky enemy. It makes you lazy. It keeps you complacent. It tells you you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to push yourself. You can stay here. This is good enough. And if you listen, you settle. You plateau. You never push past your limits. You never test your potential. You never rise to the next level. Growth requires discomfort. Growth requires struggle. Growth requires focus. Growth requires the courage to eliminate the comfort zones that are holding you back and to step into the work that scares you, challenges you, and pushes you beyond what you thought was possible. I want to remind you that distraction is not just a small thing. It's the silent killer of dreams. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't show up as a clear enemy. It sneaks into your life quietly, slowly, subtly, until one day you wake up and realize that your life is gone in the direction you didn't intend, and your goals remain unfulfilled, that your potential remains untapped, that your dreams are still dreams and not reality. And then you blame everything else. Your circumstances, your environment, your past. But the truth is, distraction was in the driver's seat and you let it steer. Here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. Focus is a choice. Discipline is a choice. Prioritization is a choice. Elimination of distraction is a choice. And every choice you make, every decision you take, every action you perform either moves you closer to growth or farther from it. Growth does not happen by accident. Success does not happen by accident. Your potential is not realized by accident. It is realized by design. It is realized through intention. It is realized by choosing what matters most and eliminating everything else. Let me break it down even further. If you are serious about growth, you have to do three things. One, you have to identify your distraction. Two, you have to eliminate your distractions. And three, you have to replace those distractions with focus-driven action. That's it. That's the formula. That's the secret. And it's simple, but it's not easy. Because distraction fights back. Distraction whispers in your ear. Distraction tempts you. Distraction seduces you. But you must be stronger. You must be disciplined. You must be committed to the life you want more than you are committed to the momentary pleasure, the comfort, the noise, the chaos, the trivial things that steal your attention. I want to challenge you today to take a look at your daily habits. How much time are you spending on things that don't matter? How much time are you letting the world pull your attention away from what's important? How much of your life is being wasted because you are not intentional with your focus? And I want to tell you something. It taught you something. Wait. Life doesn't pause. Your dreams don't wait. Your potential won't wait. Every second you waste on distraction is a second you can never get back. Every hour you waste is an hour you could have used to get closer to the life you dream of. Every day you waste is a day of progress. You will never recover. And here's the beautiful part. When you eliminate distraction, when you take control of your focus, when you prioritize what matters most, the world opens up. Opportunities appear, momentum builds, progress accelerates, growth happens faster than you ever imagined. You realize that the world is not against you. The world is waiting for you to show up fully, to be fully present, to give your all, and to stop letting trivial things steal what is rightfully yours. Distraction is powerful, but your focus is stronger. Your discipline is stronger. Your determination is stronger. And if you commit to mastering your focus, nothing can stop you. Let me give you a real life example. Think about athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, leaders, the people who reach the top, the people who dominate their field, the people who leave a legacy. They are not distracted by the noise. They are not pulled in a million directions. They are not consumed by trip vans. They are obsessed with their craft, their goals, their purpose. Every action is intentional. Every hour is purposeful. Every decision is calculated to move them closer to their vision. And that's what you have to do. That's what it takes. That's how growth happens. Distraction is the enemy, but focus is your weapon. Discipline is your shield. And the life you dream of, the growth you crave, the success you deserve, is on the other side of mastering both. You have to fight for it. You have to work for it. You have to guard it with everything you have. Because the moment you let your attention wander, the moment you give in to the trivial, the moment you settle for less, that's the moment your growth stalls. That's the moment your potential fades. That's the moment your dreams slip further away. So I want you to make a promise today. Promise yourself that you will no longer allow distraction to control your life. Promise yourself that you will be intentional with your time, your energy, and your focus. Promise yourself that you will identify the things that don't matter, eliminate them, and replace them with actions that move you closer to your goals. Promise yourself that you will be relentless in your pursuit of growth. Because here's the truth. The world will always try to pull you away from your path. The world will always try to distract you. The world will always try to entertain you while your dreams go unattended. But you are stronger than the noise. You are stronger than the chaos. You are stronger than the distraction. You are capable of more. You are destined for more. You are here for more. And the only way to get there is to focus, to eliminate the distractions, and to move relentlessly toward the life you dream of. Every hour you spend distracted is a moment of opportunity lost. Every moment of focus is an investment in your future. Every day you choose growth over entertainment, progress over comfort, action over reaction. You are building the life you deserve. And that, my friend, is the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. That is the difference between mediocrity and greatness. That is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Distraction will try to steal your potential, but your focus, your discipline, your determination, your willingness to prioritize what matters most will define the life you live. So today, I challenge you to fight distraction with everything you have. Turn off the noise. Step away from the unnecessary. Stop reacting to the chaos. Start acting on your vision. Guard your time. Guard your focus. Guard your energy. And watch what happens. Watch yourself grow. Watch your life change. Watch your dreams become reality. Watch your potential unfold. Because distraction is the enemy of growth. But you, my friend, are stronger. You, my friend, are capable. You, my friend, are unstoppable. And if you commit to eliminating distraction and mastering focus, there is nothing in this world that can stop you from achieving greatness. Growth, real meaningful growth. The kind of growth that changes your life, that elevates you, that transforms you into someone stronger, smarter, and more capable. Growth doesn't happen by accident. Growth doesn't happen because someone believes in you. Growth doesn't happen because you are in the right place at the right time. Growth happens because of one thing and one thing only: personal accountability. The willingness to own your life, your choices, your actions, and the results that come from them. Personal accountability is the foundation of every success story. It is the engine that drives progress. It is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, growth is impossible. You can read all the books. You can watch all the videos. You can listen to all the motivational speeches. But if you refuse to take full responsibility for your life, if you refuse to hold yourself accountable, you will stay stuck. You will remain stagnant. You will remain someone who dreams but never achieves. Personal accountability starts with honesty. It starts with looking in the mirror and saying, this is me. These are my choices. This is my life. And I'm responsible for every result I see. No excuses, no blame, no pointing fingers. The world will always try to give you reasons to justify failure. The world will always try to provide distractions, obstacles, or scapegoats to explain where you want to be. Your parents, your friend, your boss, the economy, your upbringing, your circumstances, everyone will give you a reason why you can't succeed. And you know what? Those things might be true. Life may have dealt you a rough hand, but your reaction to your circumstances, your choices in spite of your challenges, and your willingness to take responsibility for your actions are what define your growth. That's accountability. That's the difference between someone who complains and someone who conquers. I want you to hear me clearly. Accountability is not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not a skill that most people are willing to develop. Taking full responsibility for your life means you can't blame anyone else for your failures. You can't blame the government. You can't blame your spouse. You can't blame your friend. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame your boss. You can't blame the system. When you hold yourself accountable, you acknowledge that the results in your life, both good and bad, are a reflection of your choices, your effort, and your mindset. And that is powerful. That is liberating. That's the foundation of true growth. Because once you accept accountability, once you embrace it, once you internalize it, you no longer have to wait for anyone else to save you. You no longer have to wait for permission. You no longer have to hope for circumstances to be perfect. You are in control. You have the power. You are the one who determines your destiny. Let's talk about excuses for a moment. Excuses are the natural enemy of growth. Excuses are the opposite of accountability. They are the safety net that keeps you comfortable in mediocrity. And most people love excuses. They wake up every day and find creative ways to justify why they aren't progressing, why they aren't improving, why they aren't succeeding. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have the right connections. I don't have the resources. It's not fair. Life isn't fair. And while all that may be true, the people who grow, the people who level up, the people who become extraordinary don't spend their lives making excuses. They spend their lives making results. They own their circumstances. They take full responsibility. They look at life and say, I will make it work. I will find a way. I will figure it out. I will rise above. I will succeed. That is accountability in action. That is growth in motion. Now, I want to challenge you to take a hard look at your life. Where are you avoiding accountability? Where are you blaming someone else? Where are you giving away your power? Because until you identify those areas, until you confront them, until you make a decision to take ownership, your growth will be limited. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how motivated you are. If you refuse to hold yourself accountable, you will never reach your potential. You will never climb to the heights you dream of. You will never become the person you were meant to be. And most importantly, you will never experience the freedom, the power, and the fulfillment that comes from taking full responsibility for your life. Personal accountability also requires discipline. You see, it's easy to say, I am responsible for my life. It's easy to nod your head and agree. But it's another thing entirely to live. Accountability requires showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Accountability requires doing the work when no one is watching. Accountability requires pushing yourself beyond comfort, beyond fear, beyond laziness, beyond distraction. Accountability is not about doing the minimum. Accountability is about doing whatever it takes to achieve the results you want. It's about being relentless in your pursuit of excellence. It's about being willing to put in the effort, take the heat, and endure the struggle because you know the outcome depends on you. No one else. You. That's personal accountability. That's growth. Think about this. Every time you blame someone else, every time you pass the buck, every time you avoid responsibility, you are giving away your power. You are telling the world that you are not in control. You are telling the world that your results are someone else's fault. And while that may feel safe in the moment, it is destroying your future. It is keeping you from growth. It is keeping you from success. It is keeping you from becoming the person you are capable of being. Growth happens when you step up and say, no more excuses, no more blame, no more delay, no more delay. I am responsible for everything in my life. I am the architect of my destiny. I am accountable for my results. I am in control. Now, I need you to understand something. Accountability is not punishment. Accountability is not guilt. Accountability is not shame. Accountability is freedom. Accountability is power. Accountability is clarity. When you accept full responsibility for your life, you stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for approval. You stop hoping someone else will fix your problems. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop complaining. You stop reacting. You stop reacting. And instead, you start creating. You start building. You start producing results. You start taking control of your life. You start designing the future you want brick by brick, day by day, decision by decision. That is growth. That is the life you deserve. That is the power of personal accountability. Let me be clear. Accountability also means confronting your failures. It means facing the mistakes you've made, the poor choices you've taken, the opportunities you wasted. Most people avoid this. Most people sweep their failures under the rug. Most people pretend they didn't happen. But growth requires courage. Growth requires honesty. Growth requires the willingness to look at yourself in the mirror, take ownership of your failures, learn from them, and use them as fuel to propel you forward. Every failure, every setback, every mistake is a lesson. And the only way to learn the lesson is to own it, to be accountable for it, to take responsibility for it. The moment you do, you stop being a victim. The moment you do, you turn weakness into strength, failure into growth, and setbacks into stepping stones. That's the power of accountability. That is the engine of growth. Personal accountability also requires consistency. Growth doesn't happen in bursts. Growth doesn't happen overnight. Growth doesn't happen because you feel motivated one day and inspired the next. Growth happens through consistent action, day in and day out, over months and years. And that level of consistency can only happen if you hold yourself accountable. If you set standards for yourself and refuse to compromise them. If you commit to showing up even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one else is watching, even when no one else cares. That's accountability in action. That's what separates ordinary people from extraordinary people. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. That's what separates failure from success. I need you to understand this as well. Accountability is not about being perfect. Accountability is not about never failing. Accountability is about owning your failures when they happen, learning from them, adjusting, and continuing forward with renewed focus. Accountability is about refusing to make excuses. Accountability is about refusing to blame others. Accountability is about refusing to let circumstances dictate your life. Accountability is about taking control no matter what. Growth requires that mindset. Growth requires that level of ownership. Growth requires that kind of relentless commitment to yourself in your life. Here's the reality. The people who achieve greatness, the people who leave a legacy, the people who rise above the ordinary, they all share one thing in common. They are accountable. They don't wait for someone else to do it for them. They don't wait for luck. They don't wait for circumstances to be perfect. They don't wait for permission. They don't blame anyone else when they fail. They take ownership. They take responsibility. They take action. And that is why they grow. That's why they rise. That is why they succeed. And that is why you must do the same if you want to reach your next level. I want you to ask yourself a question right now. Are you holding yourself accountable? Are you taking full responsibility for your life? Are you owning your choices, your actions, your results, and your future? Or are you blaming others? Are you giving away your power? Are you avoiding responsibility? Because growth will not wait for you to get comfortable. Growth will not wait for you to get motivated. Growth will not wait for you to start tomorrow. Growth demands accountability today. Growth demands ownership today. Growth demands action today. If you want to grow, if you want to succeed, if you want to live a life that matters, you must embrace personal accountability. Let's talk about habits. Your habits are a reflection of your accountability. If you make excuses, if you avoid responsibility, if you blame others, your habits reflect that. You will procrastinate. You will be inconsistent. You will fail to follow through. You will sabotage your own progress. But when you hold yourself accountable, when you embrace responsibility, when you take ownership, your habits improve. You show up. You do the work. You execute consistently. You pursue excellence relentlessly. Your habits become the engine of growth. Your habits become the foundation of success. Your habits define your results. That is why personal accountability is not just an idea. It is a lifestyle. It is a practice. It is the fuel for growth. And I need you to understand that accountability is empowering. When you hold yourself accountable, you gain control over your life. You gain control over your results. You gain control over your destiny. You stop waiting for others to validate you. You stop hoping for someone else to fix your problems. You stop blaming circumstances. You take full ownership. You take full responsibility. And in that ownership, you find freedom. In that ownership, you find strength. In that ownership, you find power. In that ownership, you find the clarity and focus necessary for real growth. The harsh truth is this: growth without accountability is impossible. Motivation without accountability is useless. Talent without accountability is wasted. Dreams without accountability remain dreams. And the only way to turn your dreams into reality, your potential into performance, your goals into results is to hold yourself accountable. Take responsibility for your life. Own your choices. Embrace the struggle. Confront your failure. Learn from your mistakes. Take action consistently. And refuse to let anyone or anything dictate the results you achieve. That is growth. That is transformation. That's the life you were meant to live. So today, I challenge you to make a choice. Decide that you will no longer give away your power. Decide that you will take full responsibility for your life, your actions, your results, your future. Decide that you will embrace accountability as a non-negotiable standard. Decide that you will be honest with yourself. Decide that you will confront your failures, learn from your mistakes, and take relentless action. Decide that you will prioritize growth over excuses, results over comfort, responsibility over blame. And if you do that, I promise you this: your life will never be the same. Your growth will accelerate. Your potential will be realized. Your dreams will come alive. And you will become the person you were always meant to be. Personal accountability is not easy. It is not convenient. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary. It is essential. It is the foundation of growth, the engine of success, and the pathway to greatness. If you are serious about growth, if you are serious about achieving your dreams, if you are serious about living a life that matters, you must embrace accountability. You must own your life. You must take full responsibility for your choices, your actions, and your results. That is the difference between failure and success. That is the difference between stagnation and growth. That is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. So step up, stand tall. Look in the mirror and say, I am accountable. I am responsible. I am the architect of my life. I am the driver of my destiny. I own my choices. I own my results. I own my results. I own my future. I am accountable and I will grow. Say it with conviction. Say it with belief. Say it until it becomes your reality. Because once you embrace personal accountability, once you internalize it, once you live it every day, growth becomes inevitable. Growth becomes unstoppable. Growth becomes your life. And there's nothing in this world that can stop you when you take full ownership of yourself and your journey. Creativity, innovation, original ideas. The spark that separates ordinary people from extraordinary people. The spark that separates dreamers from doers. The spark that allows someone to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Creativity and innovation are not random. They are not accidental. They are not something that only a select few are born with. They are cultivated. They are developed. They are nurtured. And here's the truth that most people fail to realize. Creativity and innovation thrive in solitude. They thrive when you give your mind space to think, space to explore, space to imagine. They thrive when you are alone, removed from distractions, removed from the noise, removed from the chaos of the world. Solitude is not a punishment. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is a tool, a powerful tool that allows your mind to do what it was designed to do. Create, innovate, and build. I want you to understand this deeply. The world around you is noisy. It's loud. It's distracting. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has advice. Everyone wants to pull you in 100 different directions. Social media demands your attention. Notifications demand your attention. People demand your attention. And in that constant pull, in that constant bombardment, your mind doesn't get the space it needs to think deeply. It doesn't get the space it needs to problem solve. It doesn't get the space it needs to invent, to innovate, to create. True creativity requires focus. True innovation requires time. True ideas require solitude. And most people never experience this because they are too busy responding, reacting, scrolling, talking, posting, entertaining, engaging in the noise of the world, and filling their minds with endless input without output. Solitude gives you freedom. Freedom to think. Freedom to reflect. Freedom to explore ideas without judgment. Freedom to experiment without fear of criticism. When you are alone, you are not bound by the expectations of others. You are not constrained by the opinions, the doubts, or the fears of the people around you. You are free to dream bigger. You are free to see further. You are free to imagine the impossible. And that is where true innovation begins. The most groundbreaking ideas, the most creative solutions, the most original work in the history of humanity almost always began in solitude. Almost always began with a mind alone, thinking, reflecting, experimenting, imagining, and refusing to accept the limits that the world tries to impose. Think about the greats. Think about the innovators, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the writers, the inventors. Every single one of them spent time alone. Edison, Da Vinci, Steve Jobs, Beethoven, Oprah, Elon Musk. They all understood the value of solitude. They all understood that if you want to create, if you want to innovate, if you want to bring something original into the world, you must give your mind space to do it. They knew that being constantly surrounded by noise, by distraction, by other people's agendas, by opinions, by expectations, would dilute their creativity, dull their vision, and keep them from discovering the ideas that would change everything. Solitude is the playground for imagination. Solitude is the laboratory for experimentation. Solitude is the workshop where creativity is forged. I want you to understand this because it is critical. If you want to innovate, if you want to create, if you want to do something that no one else has done, you must learn to be comfortable alone. You must learn to enjoy your own company. You must learn to separate yourself from the noise, the distractions, the chaos, the opinions, and the expectations of the world. Solitude is not about being lonely. Solitude is not about isolation. Solitude is about giving your mind the freedom to operate at its highest level. It is about removing everything that pulls you away from your own thoughts, your own imagination, your own insights, and your own potential. Without it, your creativity is suffocated. Without it, your innovation is stunted. Without it, your ideas remain undeveloped, your potential remains untapped, and your growth remains limited. Let me tell you something else. Solitude forces clarity. When you are alone, you are forced to confront your thoughts. You are forced to face your ideas. You are forced to organize your mind. You are forced to prioritize, to reflect, to analyze, to iterate. And that clarity is the precursor to innovation. Most people never experience this clarity because they never spend time alone. They never allow themselves to disconnect from the constant demands of the world. They never allow themselves to slow down, to breathe, to think deeply, to explore, and to create without interference. And as a result, their ideas are shallow. Their thinking is reactive. Their work is derivative. Their potential is limited. But when you embrace solitude, when you prioritize time alone, when you cultivate the discipline to create without distraction, that's when your mind starts producing breakthroughs. That's when your ideas start to multiply. That's when your creativity flourishes. That's when innovation becomes inevitable. You have to understand this. Innovation does not happen in crowds. Creativity does not flourish in constant chatter. True originality is born in silence. True insight is born in reflection. True breakthroughs are born when you remove yourself from the noise, when you remove yourself from the pressure, when you remove yourself from the expectations of others, and when you allow your mind to wander, explore, and experiment freely. And that requires discipline. That requires courage. That requires courage. That requires intention. Most people cannot do it. Most people cannot sit quietly with their thoughts. Most people cannot resist the pull of distraction, the pull of social validation, the pull of constant input. And that is why most people remain average. That is why most people never innovate. That is why most people never create work that matters. Solitude is not optional if you want to reach the next level. Solitude is essential. Solitude is non-negotiable. Let's talk about fear. Most people fear solitude. Most people fear being alone. Most people fear silence. They think being alone means being lonely. They think being alone means being isolated. They think being alone means being bored. And that fear keeps them in a constant state of distraction. They fill their time with noise, with social media, with entertainment, with other people, with anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. And here is the truth. That fear is exactly what is holding them back. Fear of solitude is fear of your own potential. Fear of solitude is fear of your own ideas. Fear of solitude is fear of what you might discover about yourself. Fear of solitude is fear of what you are capable of creating. And if you want to innovate, if you want to create, if you want to leave a mark on the world, you must overcome that fear. You must embrace solitude. You must lean into it. You must make it your ally, not your enemy. Think about the time you spend alone. Think about the moments when no one is watching. Think about the hours you spend by yourself, reflecting, thinking, imagining, planning. Those moments are where your future is built. Those moments are where your breakthroughs are born. Those moments are where your ideas take shape. And yet, most people avoid them. Most people run from them. Most people run from them. Most people fill every spare moment with noise, distraction, and busyness. And because of that, their creativity remains dormant. Their innovation remains stagnant. And their potential remains untapped. You cannot grow creatively unless you are willing to spend time alone. You cannot innovate unless you are willing to embrace silence. You cannot reach your full potential unless you are willing to disconnect from the world and connect with your mind. I want to remind you that solitude is also where courage is developed. When you are alone, you face yourself. You face your doubts. You face your fears. You face your insecurity. And when you confront those internal obstacles in solitude, you build resilience, strength, and boldness. And those qualities are essential for innovation because innovation is risky. Creativity requires vulnerability. Original ideas are often met with skepticism, resistance, and criticism. And if you have never built the courage to stand alone with your thoughts, to trust your own vision, to defend your own ideas, then you will never have the confidence to innovate. Solitude is training. Solitude is preparation. Solitude is the gym where your creativity and your courage grow together. I need you to understand this as well. Collaboration is important. Teamwork is essential. But collaboration cannot replace the time you spend alone developing your own mind, your own ideas, your own insights. You cannot outsource your thinking. You cannot delegate your creativity. You cannot rely on others to innovate for you. You must cultivate it within yourself. You must nurture it. You must protect it. And the only way to do that is through solitude. Alone, you can explore. Alone, you can experiment. Alone, you can fail and try again without fear. Alone, you can iterate, refine, and perfect. Alone, you can produce work that is uniquely yours. Alone, you can innovate in ways that the crowd never will. Let me give you another truth. Solitude allows reflection, and reflection leads to insight. Most people are too busy doing to think. Most people are too busy moving to reflect. Most people are too busy reacting to pause and analyze. And that is why their ideas are shallow. That is why their solutions are temporary. That is why their work lacks originality. Solitude gives you the space to reflect. Solitude gives you the space to analyze. Solitude gives you the space to connect the dots. Solitude gives you the space to see patterns, recognize opportunities, and develop solutions that others miss. Without reflection, there is no insight. Without insight, there is no innovation. Without innovation, there is no growth. And here's the final truth. The more time you spend alone, the more your mind begins to trust itself. The more your mind begins to trust its own ideas. The more your mind begins to generate solutions and concepts independently of others' opinions. And that independence of thought is the hallmark of creativity. That independence of thought is the hallmark of innovation. That independence of thought is the hallmark of those who make a mark on the world. Because the world will always try to tell you what is possible, what is not possible, what is acceptable, and what is not. But if you are comfortable in solitude, if you trust your mind, if you nurture your ideas, if you allow yourself the freedom to explore, to imagine, to experiment, then you will discover possibilities that the world cannot see. You will create solutions that the world cannot anticipate. You will innovate in ways that redefine industries, disciplines, and lives. So I challenge you today, embrace solitude, make time for it, protect it, guard it, prioritize it. Because if you want to grow creatively, if you want to innovate, if you want to leave a mark, you cannot avoid it. Distraction, noise, and the opinions of others will always be there. They will never disappear. The world will never stop demanding your attention, but you can choose to step away, to disconnect, to focus, to think, to create. And that is where your power lies. That is where your ideas are born. That is where your innovation takes flight. That is where your growth becomes unstoppable. Remember this, solitude is not wasted time. Solitude is not idle time. Solitude is your most powerful tool. It is your secret weapon. It is the crucible in which creativity is forged. It is the laboratory in which innovation is tested. It is the gym in which your mind is trained to see, imagine, and create what others cannot. Embrace it, respect it, protect it, and make it an essential part of your life. Because the people who harness the power of solitude are the people who change the world. The people who harness the power of solitude are the people who leave a legacy. The people who harness the power of solitude are the people who grow in ways that others cannot. And that, my friend, is where your greatness lies. Patience. It's one of the most underrated qualities in the world. It's one of the most misunderstood qualities. Most people want instant results. Most people want quick fixes. Most people want success to come overnight. Most people want recognition without effort, results without persistence, reward without endurance. And because of that, most people never achieve anything of significance. Patience not passive. Patience not waiting idly. Patience not doing nothing while the world passes you by. Patience is active. Patience is intentional. Patience is the discipline of continuing to work, continuing to push, continuing to endure, even when there is no immediate reward. And here is the truth. Patience is built in isolation. Patience is forged when you are alone, when you are removed from distraction, removed from comparison, removed from external pressures, and forced to confront your own journey, your own process, your own discipline, and your own timeline. Let me make this clear. The world wants you to rush. The world wants you to compete on everyone else's schedule. The world wants you to look around, see someone else's success, and panic because you're not there yet. But growth, true growth, does not adhere to someone else's timeline. Success does not arrive on demand. Achievement does not knock on your door when it's convenient for you. You must understand that your journey is yours alone. And patience is the cornerstone that allows you to endure it, to embrace it, and to grow stronger as you move through it. And most people never develop patience because they never spend time alone. They never remove themselves from the constant pressure, the constant noise, the constant distraction, and the constant comparison. They never sit with themselves long enough to understand that success requires time, discipline, and endurance. Isolation is not a punishment. It is a teacher. Isolation is not a curse. It is a... When you are alone, removed from the external validation, removed from the applause, removed from the constant reassurance, you are forced to rely on yourself. You are forced to face your doubts. You are forced to confront your fears. You are forced to trust your own process. You are forced to build patience because there is no one else to rush you, no one else to rescue you, no one else to tell you what to do. And in that space, you develop the capacity to wait, to endure, to persist, and to continue even when the outcome is not immediately visible. That is the essence of patience. That is the foundation of growth. That is the key to long-term success. Think about it. The most significant achievements in history did not happen overnight. They were not instant. They were not immediate. They were the result of persistence, endurance, and patience. Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Beethoven struggled for years before composing masterpieces. Oprah endured years of challenges before achieving massive success. Elon Musk faced repeated failures before revolutionizing multiple industries. And what do all of these stories have in common? Patience. The ability to continue working, continue learning, continue growing, and continue believing in the process even when there was no immediate reward. And that patience was built in isolation. It was built in the quiet moments, the long nights, the early morning, the times when no one was watching and no one was applauding. That is where endurance is forged. That is where character is strengthened. That is where greatness is prepared. Let me be honest, patience is uncomfortable. Patience is frustrating. Patience tests you. Patience challenges you. Patience stretches you beyond what you think you can endure. Most people give up when it gets hard. Most people quit when they don't see results immediately. Most people lose hope when the journey is long. And that is exactly why they fail. The world is full of people who quit too soon, who give up too quickly, who cannot endure the discomfort that comes with growth. And if you want to rise above, if you want to achieve something extraordinary, you must be willing to endure, to persist, to trust the process, and to develop patience. You must embrace isolation because it is in that space, without distractions and without noise, that your patience is built. Isolation forces you to confront reality. It forces you to face the truth about yourself, your actions, your efforts, and your progress. When you are alone, you cannot hide. You cannot blame others. You cannot distract yourself with entertainment, social media, or other people's lives. You are forced to look at yourself, to assess your choices, to evaluate your efforts, and to take responsibility for your own journey. And that process develops patience. It teaches you that success is not instantaneous. It teaches you that growth takes time. It teaches you that every small step matters. It teaches you that every day, no matter how hard, no matter how slow, is progress. And that understanding, that internalized knowledge, is the essence of patience. I want you to think about your own life for a moment. How often do you want results immediately? How often do you get frustrated when things don't happen as fast as you want? How often do you compare yourself to others and feel inadequate because their success seems faster or easier? Because their success seems faster. That impatience, that frustration, that constant need for immediate validation is a sign that your patience muscles are weak. That impatience is a signal that you need more time in isolation, more time with yourself, more time to trust your process, and more time to develop endurance. Because patience is not taught. Patience is learned. Patience is trained. Patience developed through experience, through solitude, and through the willingness to endure long periods without immediate reward. Let's talk about time for a moment. Time is your greatest ally if you use it correctly. Time is your greatest enemy if you waste it. Patience is the bridge that allows time to work in your favor. When you are patient, when you are willing to endure, and you are willing to persevere, time becomes your tool. Time allows ideas to mature, skills to develop, strategies to unfold, and growth to compound. But if you are impatient, if you are always rushing, if you are constantly seeking immediate gratification, time becomes your enemy. You sabotage your progress. You miss opportunities. You settle for less than your potential. And that is why solitude is critical. Isolation gives you the space to learn patience, to respect time, to trust the process, and to develop the endurance necessary to achieve your long-term goals. I need you to understand that patience is not passive waiting. One would answer. Patience is active endurance. Patience is the ability to continue working, continue striving, continue improving, continue learning, and continue growing, even when the reward is not immediate. It is about focusing on the process rather than outcome. It is about putting in the work day after day without expectation of instant results. It is about trusting that the effort you put in today will compound into the results you want tomorrow. And that is why patience is built in isolation. Because when you are alone, you are forced to rely on your own discipline, your own effort, your own commitment, and your own trust in the process. There's no one else to bail you out, no one else to accelerate your results, no one else to validate your efforts. You must endure, you must persist, you must be patient. Think about this. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who rushed. They are not the ones who got lucky. They are not the ones who saw instant gratification. They are the ones who endured. They are the ones who persisted. They are the ones who invested time, energy, and effort consistently over years, often decades, to build the skills, the knowledge, the relationships, and the resilience necessary to achieve extraordinary results. And their patience was forged in isolation. They spent countless hours alone, studying, practicing, experimenting, reflecting, failing, adjusting, and continuing forward. That is the truth about patience. That is the truth about growth. That is the truth about long-term success. Isolation also builds mental toughness. Patience is not just a matter of waiting. It is a matter of enduring difficulty without giving up. It is a matter of staying the course when the journey is hard, when the results are slow, when the obstacles seem insurmountable. And that endurance, that mental toughness is developed in isolation. When you are alone, you cannot rely on others to motivate you. You cannot rely on external pressure to keep you going. You cannot rely on immediate rewards to maintain your effort. You must find the strength within yourself. You must summon the discipline within yourself. You must summon the discipline within yourself. You must cultivate the endurance within yourself. And that process over time builds patience. That process over time builds resilience. That process over time prepares you for the long journey required for meaningful growth. Let me be real with you. Life will test your patience. Life will challenge your endurance. Life will push you to your limits and beyond. And in those moments, the only thing that will carry you through is the patience you have developed in isolation. The quiet moments you spend alone, trusting your process, working when no one was watching, persevering when no one was encouraging, learning from failure, embracing discomfort, and enduring the struggle. That patience will allow you to remain calm under pressure. That patience will allow you to continue working when the outcome is uncertain. That patience will allow you to persist when others quit. And that patience will ultimately determine the level of success you achieve. I need you to hear this. The world is impatient. The world wants fast results. The world values instant gratification. The world rewards speed over discipline. But the life you want, the growth you desire, the success you dream of is built over time. It is built with consistent effort. It is built with endurance. It is built with patience. And that patience is cultivated in solitude. You cannot outsource it. You cannot buy it. You cannot borrow. You must develop it within yourself through your own effort, through your own experience, through your own discipline. That is what separates those who achieve from those who fail. That is what separates those who endure from those who quit. That is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Let's talk about fear. Impatience is often rooted in fear. Fear that you are behind. Fear that you will miss opportunities. Fear that you will never succeed. Fear that others are moving faster than you, and that fear leads to rash decisions, shortcuts, and burnout. Patience, built in isolation, helps you overcome that fear. It teaches you that your journey is unique. It teaches you that timing matters. It teaches you that sustainable success is built through consistent effort, not rushed attempts. It teaches you that the results you desire will come if you endure, persist, and trust the process. Solitude is where you develop the inner confidence to wait, the inner strength to persist, and the inner wisdom to know that timing is on your side when your effort is consistent. I want you to understand that patience is not passive. Patience is not idle. Patience is deliberate. Patience is intentional. Patience is the result of conscious effort to trust your process, to endure your journey, and to persist even when the outcome is not immediately visible. Then isolation is the environment that allows that deliberate patience to be cultivated. Because when you are alone, you cannot rely on others to motivate you. You cannot rely on external pressure to force action. You cannot rely on immediate rewards to maintain momentum. You must develop the capacity to endure, persist, and trust the process independently. That is the power of patience. That is the gift of isolation. That is the foundation of growth. I need you to make a choice today. Decide that you will embrace patience. Decide that you will endure. Decide that you will persist. Decide that you will work consistently even when the results are slow. Decide that you will trust your process. Decide that you will embrace solitude as the teacher that builds your patience, strengthens your character, and prepares you for long-term success. And if you do that, I promise you this, you will achieve more than you ever imagined. You will endure more than you thought possible. You will grow stronger than you believed. And you will experience success that is lasting, meaningful, and extraordinary. Patience is built in isolation. Isolation is where growth happens. Isolation is where endurance is forged. Isolation is where resilience is developed. Isolation is where character is strengthened. Isolation is where greatness is prepared. If you want to achieve your dreams, if you want to realize your potential, if you want to create a life that matters, you must embrace patience. You must embrace solitude. You must endure. You must persist. You must trust your journey. And you must commit to consistent, disciplined effort over time. That is how extraordinary results are achieved. That is how lasting success is created. That is how growth is realized. Discipline is not built in front of an audience. Discipline is not built when people are watching, clapping, encouraging, or correcting you. Discipline is built when nobody is there. Discipline is built in the quiet. Discipline is built in the moment when know what choice you made. That is why solitude is not a weakness. It is the ultimate training ground for discipline. Because when you are alone, there's no pressure to perform, no fear of judgment, no applause to chase. There's only you, your standards, your habits, and your commitment. And in that space, discipline is either revealed or destroyed. Most people think they are disciplined because they can show up when someone is watching. They can work when there's a deadline. They can perform when there's accountability. They can grind when there's a reward on the line. But real discipline is what you do when there's no deadline, no supervision, no reward, and no recognition. Real discipline is waking up early when nobody expects you to. Real discipline is staying consistent when no one is checking on you. Real discipline is doing the work even when quitting would be easier and no one would blame you for it. And that level of discipline can only be forged in solitude. Solitude removes excuses. When you are alone, you can't say, they distracted me. You can't say, no one helped me. You can't say, the environment wasn't right. You are forced to confront the truth. Either you will do what needs to be done or you won't. Either you will hold yourself accountable or you won't. Either you will honor your commitments or you will break them. Solitude strips everything down to the core, and in that stripped down state, discipline becomes a choice you must make daily. Let's be honest. Discipline is uncomfortable. Discipline demands sacrifice. Discipline requires saying no to things that feel good in the moment so you can say yes to something greater later. And most people avoid solitude because solitude exposes their lack of discipline. When there's no one around, the phone becomes tempting. The bed becomes comfortable. Procrastination feels justified. Excuses feel reasonable. And that's exactly why solitude is necessary, because it reveals where your discipline truly stands. You don't build discipline by talking about it. You don't build discipline by posting about it. You don't build discipline by planning it. You build discipline by doing the work consistently, especially when it's hard, especially when it's boring, especially when no one is watching. Solitude creates the environment where discipline either grows or dies. Because when you are alone, motivation fades quickly, inspiration disappears. And what remains is discipline, or the lack of it. Most people are motivated by emotion. They feel inspired today, so they work today. They feel tired tomorrow, so they quit tomorrow. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. Discipline doesn't negotiate with excuses. Discipline says, this is who I am, and this is what I do, regardless of how I feel. And solitude is where that mindset is built. Because when you're alone, you don't have emotional height to rely on. You must rely on structure. You must rely on habits. You must rely on internal standards. Think about this. The strongest habits are built in private. The routines that shape your future are formed when no one is watching. The standards that define your character are set in solitude. Anyone can look disciplined for a moment. Anyone can grind for a week. Anyone can push hard when there's external pressure. But only disciplined individuals can stay consistent when there is silence, when there's no validation, and when progress feels slow. That consistency is forged in solitude. Solitude teaches you self-command. It teaches you how to give yourself instructions and actually follow them. It teaches you how to say, I said I would do this, so I will. It teaches you how to override comfort with commitment. And that skill, self-command, is one of the rarest and most powerful traits a person can possess. Because once you can command yourself, the world can't control you. Temptations lose their power. Distractions lose their grip. Excuses lose their credibility. And discipline becomes your identity. Most people want discipline, but they don't want isolation. They want results, but they don't want the quiet grind. They want success, but they don't want the lonely process. They want the reward, but they don't want the repetition. And that contradiction is why they stay stuck. Discipline requires repetition. Discipline requires routine. Discipline requires doing the same hard things over and over out of applause. And solitude is the only environment where that repetition can truly take root. Let me tell you something real. When you first enter solitude, it feels uncomfortable. It feels boring. It feels heavy. Because you are suddenly face to face with your habits, you realize how much you rely on noise, how much you rely on people, how much you rely on external stimulation to avoid discipline. And in that discomfort, many people run back to distraction. They turn the music up. They scroll. They seek company. They avoid the silence. But those who stay, those who endure that discomfort, begin to change. Over time, solitude rewires you. You start to enjoy structure. You start to crave routine. You start to value consistency. You start to respect your own word. You start to trust yourself. And that trust is powerful because once you trust yourself to do what you say you'll do, your confidence changes. Your posture changes. Your decisions change. Your future changes. And all of that begins in solitude. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up even when you fail. It's about correcting yourself without self-hate. It's about recommitting every day. And solitude gives you the space to do that honestly, without comparison, without judgment, without performance. Just you, refining yourself one disciplined choice at a time. Look at the people you admire, the ones who are mentally strong, the ones who are physically fit, the ones who are financially disciplined, the ones who are emotionally stable. None of that happened accidentally. None of that happened overnight. And none of that happened in constant noise. It happened through years of quiet discipline, years of routines no one saw, years of sacrifices no one applauded, years of consistency that looked boring but produced extraordinary results. Solitude strengthens discipline because it removes dependency. You stop depending on motivation. You stop depending on reminders. You stop depending on accountability partners. You stop depending on pressure. You learn to depend on principles. You learn to depend on principle. You learn to depend on habits. You learn to depend on your own standards. And that independence is what separates leaders from followers, achievers from dreamers, builders from talkers. There will be days when you don't feel like it. Days when quitting feels logical. Days when rest turns into avoidance. Days when discipline feels heavy. And in those moments, solitude becomes the proving ground. Will you do what's easy, or will you do what's necessary? Will you follow comfort, or will you follow commitment? Will you listen to excuses, or will you listen to your standard? That decision, repeated daily, is how discipline is built. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Discipline comes before confidence. Discipline comes before success. Discipline comes before clarity. Most people say, once I feel ready, I'll be disciplined. No, you become ready through discipline. You gain clarity through discipline. You build confidence through discipline. And solitude is where that sequence begins. Solitude also teaches you delayed gratification. It teaches you how to say no now so you can say yes later. It teaches you how to sit with discomfort without escaping. It teaches you how to invest effort without immediate payoff. And that ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. People who master it outperform those who chase instant pleasure every time. When you are alone, you realize something powerful. No one is coming to save you. No one is responsible for your growth but you. No one owes you discipline. No one owes you success. And that realization can feel heavy, but it is also freeing. Because once you accept that responsibility, you gain control, and control is the foundation of discipline. Solitude strengthens discipline by forcing honesty. You can't fake consistency when you're alone. You can't perform for an audience that doesn't exist. You can't pretend to be committed when no one is watching. And that honesty, over time, sharpens you. It humbles you. It corrects you. It corrects you. And it builds real strength. This is why solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is absence of connection. Solitude is presence of purpose. Solitude is choosing to be alone so you can become better. Solitude is stepping away from noise so you can hear standards clearly. Solitude is where discipline stops being something you chase and becomes something you live. If you want to be disciplined, stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for pressure. Stop waiting for the perfect environment. Step into solitude. Create routines. Set standards. Keep promises to yourself. Fail, adjust, recommit, and do it again, and again, and again. Because discipline is not built in crowds. Discipline is not built in comfort. Discipline is not built in noise. Discipline is built when it's just you. And solitude is where that strength is forged. Your purpose doesn't speak loudly. It doesn't shout over the crowd. It doesn't compete with noise, opinions, trends, or expectations. Purpose whispers. Purpose waits. Purpose reveals itself slowly, quietly, and only to those who are willing to be still long enough to hear it. That is why connection with your purpose deepens in solitude. Not in chaos, not in crowds, not in constant motion, but in silence, in stillness, in separation. In those moments when the world fades and all that's left is you and the question you've been avoiding, why am I really here? Most people think they know their purpose because they know what they want. But desire is not purpose. Ambition is not purpose. Goals are not purpose. Purpose is deeper than outcomes. Purpose is deeper than titles. Purpose is deeper than money, applause, or validation. Purpose is the reason behind your persistence. It's the fire that keeps burning when motivation dies. And you cannot discover that fire in a noisy room. You discover it alone. Solitude strips away influence. It removes expectation. It disconnects you from who people want you to be and reconnects you to who you actually are. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your identity becomes diluted. Their opinions shape you. Their fears infect you. Their limits define you. And without realizing it, you begin living a borrowed life, chasing borrowed dreams, running toward goals that were never truly yours. Solitude pulls you back. It asks you to sit down, be honest, and ask the hardest questions without distractions to hide behind. Why do you wake up every day? Why does this matter to you? Why are you willing to suffer for this? Why won't you quit even when it hurts? Those questions don't get answered in conversation. They get answered in contemplation, in reflection, in moments when you are forced to confront your truth without filters. And most people avoid solitude because they're afraid of those hands. They're afraid they've been running in the wrong direction. Afraid they've been living someone else's vision. Afraid they've been busy but empty. Solitude doesn't let you escape that realization. It brings it to the surface. Purpose is not discovered in excitement. It's discovered in alignment. When what you do matches who you are. When your actions match your values. When your effort matches your conviction. And alignment only becomes clear when the noise is gone. In solitude, you begin to notice pattern. You see what drains you and what energizes you. You recognize what feels forced and what feels natural. You identify what you do even if no one paid you, praised you, or noticed you. That's purpose speaking. Most people confuse passion with purpose. Passion comes and goes. Passion fluctuates with emotion. Purpose remains when passion fades. Purpose is what you return to when you're tired. Purpose is what pulls you forward when the road is lonely. And solitude tests that connection. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, no one to convince, no one to perform. So the question becomes simple and brutal. Would you still do this if no one ever knew? That question changes everything. Solitude removes performance and reveals intention. It forces you to separate what you love from what you chase for approval. And in that separation, purpose becomes clearer. You realize that some things you've been pursuing don't fulfill you. They just distract you. Some goals excite your ego but starve your soul, and solitude gives you the courage to let those things go. Purpose also requires honesty, and honesty is uncomfortable. When you're alone, you can't lie to yourself forever. You can't drown the truth in entertainment. You can't silence your inner voice with noise. Eventually it speaks. It tells you what you've been avoiding. It tells you what you've been postponing. It tells you what you're meant to do and what you've been afraid to commit to. And that honesty is the foundation of purpose-driven living. Solitude doesn't just reveal purpose, it strengthens it. Because once you see it clearly, you start protecting it. You stop wasting energy. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand. You stop chasing validation from environments that don't align. You begin making decisions based on meaning instead of momentum. And that shift changes your entire life. When you are connected to your purpose, you don't need constant motivation. You don't need reminders. You don't need reminders. You don't need hype. Purpose fuels discipline. Purpose sustains endurance. Purpose explains your pain. When the journey gets hard, and it will, purpose is what reminds you why quitting isn't an option. And that connection is built in solitude, because solitude removes the temporary and reveals the eternal. Think about every major transformation in history, every leader, every visionary, every innovator, every reformer. They all had seasons of isolation, not because they were antisocial, but because they needed clarity. They needed alignment. They needed to hear something deeper in public opinion. They needed time alone to wrestle with their calling. Purpose is not crowdsourced. It is cultivated privately. Solitude teaches you the difference between being busy and being called. Busy fills your calendar. Purpose fills your soul. Busy exhausts you. Purpose energizes you. Busy demands constant movement. Purpose gives direction. And when you finally experience that difference, you stop glorifying busyness and start honoring alignments. Solitude, you also realize that purpose doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes purpose scares you. Sometimes it demands more from you than you think you can give. Sometimes it requires you to grow into someone you're not yet ready to be. And that fear is another reason people avoid solitude, because solitude removes denial. It shows you the gap between who you are and who you must become. And that gap feels heavy, but that gap is also an invitation. Purpose doesn't show up fully formed. It unfolds as you grow, and solitude gives you the space to grow without pressure, without timeline, without comparison. You're no longer rushing to become something for others. You're becoming something for yourself and for something bigger than yourself. Solitude also teaches you patience with purpose. Purpose is not always clear immediately. Sometimes it takes years of refinement, years of missteps, years of exploration. And solitude allows you to sit with uncertainty without panicking. It teaches you that not knowing is part of knowing. That confusion is part of clarity. That wandering is part of direction. Instead of running from that discomfort, you learn to listen within it. Purpose becomes louder when distractions fade. You start noticing intuitive nudges, subtle pulls, repeated thoughts, consistent themes. Things that keep returning to your heart no matter how hard you try to ignore them. Those are not accidents, that's purpose knocking. And solitude is what opens the door. When you're deeply connected to your purpose, your decisions simplify. You stop asking, will this make me look good? And start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? You stop chasing opportunities and start choosing alignment. You stop reacting and start responding. And that clarity reduces anxiety, confusion, and burnout. Purpose also reshapes your pain. Pain no longer feels random. It feels instructive. It feels formative. When you understand your purpose, suffering becomes meaningful, struggle becomes shaping. Delay becomes preparation. And solitude is where you reinterpret your experiences through that lens. You stop asking, why is this happening? To me, and start asking, what is this preparing me for? That shift changes everything. Solitude also deepens humility. When you're alone with your purpose, you realize it's bigger than you. You understand that you're a vessel, not the source. That your life is meant to contribute, not just consume. And that realization grounds you. It keeps you focused. It keeps you disciplined. It keeps you moving in when recognition doesn't come. Purpose doesn't need an audience to exist. It only needs commitment. And solitude tests that commitment daily. Are you willing to keep going without reassurance? Are you willing to stay aligned when it's unpopular? Are you willing to choose meaning over comfort? Those questions are answered alone. When you are connected to your purpose, solitude no longer feels empty. It feels full of direction, full of intention, full of peace. You're no longer afraid of being alone because you're not lonely. You're walking with something deeper than people's opinions. And that gives you strength. Eventually you'll return to the world. Purpose is not meant to stay hidden. It's meant to be expressed. But it must be formed properly before it can be lived publicly. If you skip solitude, your purpose will be shallow, fragile, easily shaken. But if you honor solitude, your purpose becomes rooted, unmovable, anchored. This is why your journey demands solitude, because without it, your purpose remains blurred, influenced. But within your purpose sharpens, deepens, strengthens. It becomes the compass that guides every step, every sacrifice, every decision. So don't run from solitude. Don't fear the quiet. Don't avoid being alone with your thoughts. That's where your purpose is waiting. Not screaming, not chasing you, just waiting for you to listen. Leadership is not born in crowds. Leadership is not developed in applause. Leadership is not forged in popularity, titles, or attention. Leadership is formed in isolation, quietly, slowly, painfully. Solitude prepares you for leadership because leadership demands something most people are not ready for. Responsibility without recognition, decisions without consensus, pressure without comfort, and vision without validation. And if you cannot stand alone, you cannot lead others. Most people think leadership is about being followed. It's not. Leadership is about being willing to go first. It's about standing firm when others doubt. It's about carrying weight that no one else sees. It's about making decisions that won't be understood until much later. And those capacities are not developed in noise. They are developed in solitude, where you learn to trust your judgment, strengthen your convictions, and refine your character without external reinforcement. Solitude forces you to confront yourself before you ever confront the world. Before you can lead others, you must lead your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own fears, and your own impulses. That self-leadership is the foundation of all leadership. And self-leadership is built when no one is watching, when no one is guiding you, when no one is correcting you, Solitude is where you learn to govern yourself. A leader who cannot be alone will always be controlled by opinion. They will bend under pressure. They will chase approval. They will fear criticism. And that fear will shape their decisions. Solitude breaks that dependency. It teaches you how to stand firm without applause. It teaches you how to remain steady when affirmation is absent. It teaches you how to listen inward instead of outward. And that inner stability is what gives leaders credibility. In solitude, you learn discernment. You learn how to separate noise from signal, emotion from insight, urgency from importance. Leadership requires clarity, not reaction. But clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from reflection, from stillness, from the willingness to pause and think deeply. Solitude sharpens your thinking. It slows your reactions and deepens your responses. It allows wisdom to replace impulse. Every leader will face moments where there's no right answer, only responsibility. Moments where every option has a cost. Moments where hesitation feels safer than action. Solitude prepares you for those moments by training you to sit with uncertainty without panicking, to think without rushing, to decide without consensus, to accept the weight of choice. That is leadership. Solitude also reveals your motives. When you are alone, you can no longer hide behind influence or image. You confront the question most leaders avoid. Do I want power or do I want responsibility? Do I want status or do I want service? Do I want service? Do I want control or do I want impact? Leadership built on ego collapses under pressure. Leadership built on purpose endures. Solitude exposes the difference. True leadership is sacrificial. It demands delayed gratification. It demands personal discomfort for collective progress. It demands consistency even when appreciation is absent. And solitude trains you for that sacrifice. It teaches you how to work without praise, how to care without recognition, how to remain committed when results are slow. Those lessons cannot be taught publicly. They are learned privately. In solitude, you also learn emotional regulation. Leaders cannot afford emotional chaos. They cannot be ruled by mood. They cannot react recklessly. They must remain composed under pressure. Solitude gives you the space to process emotions honestly without projecting them onto others. It teaches you how to feel deeply without acting impulsively. That emotional maturity is essential for leadership. Solitude also strengthens your integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. It is alignment between values and actions in private. Leaders without integrity eventually collapse publicly. Solitude is where integrity is tested daily. Will you honor your standards when shortcuts are available? Will you remain honest when compromise is easier? Will you stay disciplined when no one would notice failure? Leadership begins with those private choices. Leadership demands vision. Vision is not prediction. It is clarity about direction. And vision cannot be borrowed. It must be cultivated. Solitude is where vision forms, where ideas mature, where long-term thinking replaces short-term reaction, where you step back from immediate pressure and see the bigger picture. Leaders who never step into solitude lose direction because they are constantly responding instead of leading. Solitude teaches patience with people. Leaders deal with complexity, with resistance, with misunderstanding, with slow progress. Without solitude, frustration turns into resentment. But solitude gives you perspective. It reminds you that growth takes time, that people evolve at different speeds. That leadership is about guidance, not control. That patience is not weakness, it's strength. In solitude, you also confront your insecurities. Every leader has them. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy. But leaders who avoid solitude avoid confronting those fears, and unaddressed fears eventually control decision. Solitude forces you to face them honestly, to name them, to understand them, and to lead despite them. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is mastery over it. Solitude prepares you to carry loneliness. Leadership can be lonely. Decisions separate you. Responsibility isolates you. Vision distances you. And if you are not comfortable being alone, leadership will crush you. Solitude teaches you that loneliness is not abandonment. It is alignment. That standing alone does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes it means you are early. Solitude also teaches humility. When you are alone, you realize how much you still need to learn, how incomplete you are, how much growth remains. That humility keeps leaders teachable. It keeps them listening. It keeps them grounded. Leaders who lose humility stop growing. Stop growing. Solitude keeps arrogance in check. Leadership requires consistency. People trust what is predictable. They follow what is stable. Solitude builds that consistency by reinforcing habits and principles internally. You become the same person privately that you are publicly. That alignment creates trust. And trust is the currency of leadership. Solitude also prepares you to take responsibility without blame. Leaders cannot afford to deflect. They cannot hide behind excuses. Solitude trains you to own outcomes, to reflect instead of react, to ask, what can I do better? Instead of a hope failed me. That ownership is leadership. When you spend time alone, you develop an internal compass. You stop relying on trends. You stop chasing approval. You stop reacting to criticism. You move with intention. And that intentionality creates authority. Not positional authority, but moral authority. People sense when a leader is grounded, they feel it, they trust it. Solitude also teaches restraint. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every conflict needs to be escalated. Not every opportunity needs to be pursued. Leaders must know when to act and when to wait. Solitude sharpens that judgment. It teaches you that silence can be strategic. That restraint can be powerful. Leadership is not about control. It's about influence. And influence comes from character. Character is built when no one is watching, in solitude, in repetition, in quiet choices. That's where leaders are made. Before people see your leadership, you must survive your isolation. Before others follow your voice, you must learn to hear your own. Before you carry responsibility for many, you must learn to carry yourself. Solitude is the classroom. Pressure is the test. And leadership is the result. If you skip solitude, your leadership would be shallow, easily shaken, dependent on approval. But if you honor solitude, your leadership will be rooted, calm, steady, resilient. So don't fear being alone. Don't rush to quiet. Don't avoid the isolation. That's where leaders are prepared. Not announced, not applauded, prepared. This is where it all comes together. After the silence, after the isolation, after the long nights when no one checked on you, after the days when progress felt invisible, after the moments when quitting felt logical. This is where you realize something powerful. Solitude was never about being alone. It was about becoming whole. It was about stripping away everything that distracted you from who you were meant to become. It was about removing the noise so you could finally hear the truth. And the truth is this: growth was always an inside job. You didn't lose people for no reason. You didn't walk alone by accident. You didn't feel misunderstood by coincidence. Those seasons were necessary. They were preparing you, preparing your mind to think deeper, preparing your heart to endure longer, preparing your character to carry more weight. Because the life you're chasing demands more than motivation. It demands maturity. It demands discipline. It demands patience. It demands clarity. And none of those things are built in crowds. Solitude taught you how to sit with discomfort without running. It taught you how to work without applause. It taught you how to keep promises to yourself. It taught you how to trust your process, even when results were slow. And most importantly, it taught you how to listen to your thoughts, your instincts, your purpose. That kind of listening changes you. It sharpens you. It sharpens you. It grounds you. Now you understand why the journey felt lonely. You were being refined. You were being separated from habits that no longer served you, from opinions that weakened you, from environments that limited you. Solitude was the filter. It removed what was unnecessary, so what was essential could remain. And what remained was strength, focus, conviction, direction. You no longer need validation to move forward. You no longer need permission to believe in yourself. You no longer need noise to feel important. You've learned how to stand firm without approval. You've learned how to move with intention instead of impulse. You've learned that consistency beats excitement, discipline beats motivation, and alignment beats speed. Those lessons didn't come from inspiration. They came from isolation. And now, when you step back into the world, you're different. You move differently. You think differently. You respond differently. You don't rush. You don't panic. You don't chase. You choose. You're no longer reacting to life. You're directing it. Because solitude didn't weaken you, it anchored you. The world may never know the battles you fought in silence, the tears you wiped alone, the doubts you wrestled with, the days you showed up even when you felt empty. And that's okay. Growth doesn't need witnesses. Strength doesn't need announcements. Transformation doesn't need applause. What matters is that you didn't quit. You stayed. You endured. You evolved. You now understand that isolation was not rejection. It was redirection. It wasn't loss. It was preparation. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. Protection from becoming someone shallow. Protection from building success without substance. Protection from leading without character. Protection from reaching heights you weren't ready to sustain. Everything you learned alone is what will sustain you publicly. The patience you develop will keep you steady. The discipline you built will keep you consistent. The clarity you gain will keep you focused. The purpose you connected with will keep you moving when things get hard. And the leadership you forged in silence will allow you to stand strong when pressure comes. When pressure comes. So when the world finally sees you, they'll think it happened overnight. They'll call you lucky. They'll admire the results without understanding the process. And you won't need to explain because you know what it cost. You know what it took. You know who you became in the quiet. Remember this, solitude is not a destination. It's a season. A necessary one, and you don't stay there forever, but you never forget what it taught you. You carry it with you into your work, into your relationships, into your leadership, into every decision you make. It becomes your foundation. And when life gets noisy again, and it will, you'll know how to return to stillness. When confusion creeps in, you'll know how to step back. When pressure builds, you'll know how to ground yourself because solitude gave you a home within yourself, a place of clarity, a place of strength, a place of truth. This journey demanded solitude because it demanded depth, and now you have it. Depth of thought, depth of character, depth of purpose. You're no longer chasing growth. You've embodied it. You're no longer afraid of being alone. You understand its power. You're no longer running from silence. You respect it. So walk forward with confidence, not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't rush, the kind that's rooted in work done when no one was watching. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency show. Let your results unfold in time. Because the solitude you once questioned became the strength you now stand on. And the journey that isolated you is the same journey that'll be.